Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today is the third installment of this mini-series where I undertake the challenge of 3D printing a 15-foot dragon. In the last video, we took the concept art and turned this into a 3D printable model from which we could start the printing process. At the time of starting this project, I had just gotten the CR30, which I had pre-ordered during the Kickstarter project, so after doing some initial tests, I believe I was ready to begin printing. I therefore took my STL files and loaded these up in the slicer to begin testing my prints. From the beginning, there was changes to be made to the models since there were certain areas which were printing incorrectly. After thickening up the walls and double checking them in Cura to get rid of any artifacts, I was able to proceed to the next stage. Now, by the time I had received this machine, we had reached the warmest period of the year, and with multiple machines running at the same time, I had to contend with fairly high temperatures along with much higher humidity levels. Average temperature in my apartment was around 5 to 8 degrees warmer than the outside, and that was with a poorly functioning air conditioning running at mid-power. The print bed adhesion was severely compromised as a result, not to mention that the filament I had purchased came in two different batches. Despite ordering the exact same filament, both batches required completely different temperatures. So with the sweltering heat, I did my best to get the prints going for this machine. However, things would prove far more difficult than expected. After a couple successful prints, I began to notice two things. The first is that the prints weren't sticking to the bed, and the second was that the prints were getting worse the more I printed with the machine. After several failed prints dislodged themselves from the print bed, I eventually figured out that I needed to wipe down the surface with some isopropyl alcohol. The second batch of filament required a minimal hot end temperature of 210 along with a slightly higher build plate temperature. Although I had finally gotten the prints to stick down, they were still getting worse. After having tried changing the retractions, ooze amounts, print heights, temperatures, just to mention a few things, nothing seemed to work. So I tried reloading a previous file that successfully printed. When the print also failed to complete, I knew that the issue was mechanical in nature, and after a month and a half of troubleshooting, the answer finally came during an extremely bad print failure. The extruder pressure was clearly too tight since it had pushed through the Bowden tube itself. I must admit that this was the first time I had ever seen this happen. After replacing the Bowden tube, it was here that I discovered what was causing the lack of material to extrude. The tip of the Bowden tube had been burned and deformed due to heat creep. I ordered myself some Capricorn tubing and replaced it with this higher quality option. With this completed, I was finally able to extrude material once again, and there was a remarkable improvement in the print quality. This means that the higher temperature of the new filament had caused excessive amounts of heat to creep up the hot end. With the prints finally completing, I began printing the rest of the plates for the dragon. Prior to beginning the full-size print for the head, I started fine-tuning my measurements in Blender with a small-scale resin print of these parts. This had allowed me to go through many alliterations at a quick pace prior to committing to the full print. This saved me several weeks of work since I clearly had to make changes to my tolerances before proceeding to the full size. With these changes completed, I was now ready to start printing the final piece. Throughout the printing process, I ran into issues with the time-lapse footage, but this was nothing in comparison when it came to printing the full-size head. You see, this portion was a 5-day print, which included the jaw, top portion of the skull, and the connector. I'm sure you guys can guess which part had an issue. If you guessed the top of the skull, you would be correct, since the cable to the hot end got caught along the frame and caused the machine to start releasing random strings of filament. After I zip-tied the cable to prevent this from happening a second time, I attempted to restart the print where it had left off. This is where I discovered that the machine itself seemed to have a procedure in place to move the Z-axis prior to starting any print, which in my case, I wanted to avoid. In the end, I solved this issue by starting the print where it left off manually and aligning the print to the bed while it started extruding filament. I believe this only worked because the head was already so heavy that it had enough weight to stay in place during the print. Although I did end up with a significant offset, the end result would still work once it was filled in. With all the portions printed, it was now time to begin finishing and assembling the pieces prior to the painting process. But that will be a story for another day. I hope you guys enjoyed the journey so far, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you and take care. If you want to support this channel, please feel free to check out the merch on my main website.